Humanity.
Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is Wednesday, which means during the first half hour, we're going to be doing a regularly scheduled Science for Humans episode with Dr. Jeff Galini in just a moment. Just a couple announcements to make. First of all, as always, Superhuman Radio is being made possible through a special grant from All American Pharmaceuticals and All American EFX. Go to superhumanradio.com to learn more about them. And also, just a reminder that yesterday's show, we talked with Jennifer Jones from Wise Choice Medicine. The old website was wisechoicemedicine.net. The working website is wisechoicemedicine.com. Those of you who are interested in learning more about Can-C eye drops, you must go to wisechoicemedicine.com for the time being. They're having some internet website issues. Okay, today's subject is good fat, bad fat. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Carl. How about you?
Wonderful, wonderful. And, you know, it's amazing how fat is real. Oh, wait a minute. I did it again. Wait a minute.
The music.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
You know what's funny? I'm out of the studio for 5 days, and it's almost like I lost my brain. Everything that I normally do. I can't even get the microphones to work right. So yesterday somebody messaged me and said, hey, I can hear you talking during the commercial breaks. I don't know what I've done to this mixer board, but I have to figure it out because the mics are open all the time now. So there you go.
Well, you know how that works.
Yeah.
But, you know, without that music, it's kind of like an athlete coming out on the field. You know, I just don't get psyched up.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right? You deserve it. You've earned it. I mean, you hosted me for 5 days in Billings, Montana. You really earned it. That's for sure.
We had a good time, boy.
No, we did. It was a lot of fun. So, good fats, bad fats. So fats have really been in the news a lot lately because the dietary orthodoxy is now changing their position on both fat and cholesterol, and really coming around to a mindset that you evolved in when you were living in California and training in the mecca of bodybuilding, and that is that, you know, fat is an important constituent in the diet. It's not the evil demon that everybody thinks it is it?
Well, no, and, you know, like your header says that the show dispels myths, I think we need to talk about, you know, a couple myths that people have about fat. You know, number one, does eating fat make you fat? I mean, how many times have you heard that? I'm not going to eat fat because it makes me fat. Well, of course, the answer to that is actually sometimes. It isn't the fat directly. You know, it's if you have an excess amount of calories. The other thing is, you know, fats are bad for you. They're unhealthy. And again, it's kind of a sometimes because it depends on, you know, what type of fat, which we're going to kind of talk about the different categories of these fats.
Isn't that what makes dietary recommendations so difficult? Because people want a black and white answer. They want a yes or no answer. They want a silver bullet answer, and nothing is that simple.
It's very tough, especially because, you know, fats is really just an overall category. You know, you look on a nutrition facts panel and it says fats. That's every different type of fat. So, you know, really that's not even a good terminology if we don't break it down into, you know, what are fats. But yeah, it's very confusing.
It's almost like saying cars are expensive. Well, which car? A Ferrari? Yeah. A Yugo?
Exactly.
Maybe not. You know, it's like there's specificity, and that's the problem. People want simple answers. People don't want to have to invest any time in learning. And this is why they fall prey to this kind of misinformation.
It is, you know, and I think it's just sometimes it is a little complex, but you know, with a little bit of research, you know, you need to look into something before somebody just says, "Hey, fats are no good for you."
So let's talk about good fats. Tell me what good fats are. Is there a way to identify them? Is there a way to use a method of identification and say, okay, I'm going to look at this fat and see if it stands up to being a good fat?
Yeah, there are. The good fats are considered monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. Now, we're talking, from the medical industry, scientific, everybody agrees that these are all good fats. We're going to talk about one that's a little borderline in a bit. But your monounsaturated fats, they come mostly from nuts, plant oils, avocados actually have both poly and unsaturated. But those are all, your healthy fats, your peanut butters, your almond butters. Then you get into your polyunsaturated fats, which are also called essential fatty acids. So it's kind of important to see these are essential. But these are your omega-6s, omega-3s. These are your fish, your fish oils. You can pick some up from like flax seeds, barrage oils, primrose oils. But those are all oils that are essential. They've been proven to lower your bad cholesterol, your LDL levels, and to raise your good cholesterol.
So what about olive oil?
Yeah, olive oil is part of the monounsaturated. So most all plant oils, olive oil, canola oil, those are good.
Yeah.
And of course, moderation. That doesn't mean, if you drink a bottle of olive oil a day, it's going to lower your cholesterol. So that's kind of where, as we started, you got to be careful not to take in excess amounts. But for most people, these are good. There's a study that shows that it reduces heart disease and stroke.
Right.
These type of fats, lowers cholesterol, as we said.
You got to be careful about, we've done several shows on this topic, and it's actually one of my pet peeves right now. The olive oil industry, the demand far outpaces the growth of olives. So the olive oil industry has gone to adulterating with less desirable oils. You must know where you're getting your olive oil from to make sure that it's real olive oil. Otherwise, it's not going to confer the benefits that you associate with olive oil. The other thing that you have to be aware of with oils is they can go rancid. Handling of oils, both in production, transportation, and then after you buy it, is critical. If you want your oils to confer those benefits, you have to be careful that they are in temperature controlled, avoid sunlight, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, and you were actually telling me about one of your favorite brands, weren't you?
Papa Vince. It's the look.
Yeah.
We have them on the show because it's the best olive oil in the world. It comes right from Sicily, so you can't go wrong with that one. But yeah, you got to be careful how you handle your olive oil as well. So those are the good fats. What are the bad fats?
Then you go to the far extreme. There are things. This is a relatively new fat, so to say, because years ago we didn't hear about trans fatty acids, and they're uncommon in nature. I mean, you can find them in very trace amounts in some places, but essentially they're created artificially. They're not good for you. They are shown to increase, heart risk, Alzheimer's, infertility. I mean, there's all kind of stuff. And these are found in your fried foods. Again, it's very expensive for most restaurants to take olive oil and fry their French fries.
Right.
It's a lot cheaper to make these trans fatty acids that they can use. And again, they use them over and over again. And I don't know if you know, but there are some additives that they actually can put into those oils to increase the shelf life so they don't have to change them every night. They actually can get about a week out of that oil.
Ugh.
Yeah,
that's
and
gross.
what they put in there is not very good, so it only kind of adds to the insult of something that's already not safe. But, you'll find them in, snack foods, chips, cookies, donuts, pastries, anything that probably isn't healthy will contain some trans fatty acids. They're supposed to be listed on the label, so if you do buy a label, you'll see that trans fat category. But be careful. If it's less than 1 gram, they can
per
put
serving.
0. So,
if it's less than 1 gram per serving. So this is how they get by. They say that the serving size is some minuscule amount, and then they say no trans fats because there's 0.9 of a gram per serving. But when you sit down and eat, you eat 12 servings. Guess what? You just got 12 grams of trans fats.
Yeah, I mean, who's going to eat one Lay's potato chip, right?
Right. Right.
I mean, what's that commercial? Bet you can't eat
Bet
just
you
one?
can't eat just one. Now we're dating ourselves now.
I know.
So
it just kind of popped in my head.
Interesting historic recount of trans fats. The first trans fat was developed by Procter & Gamble. It was called Crisco. It was designed to replace beef tallow and lard, which was becoming increasingly more expensive because the cities were concentrating populations and farmers were having a harder time delivering their products into the cities. So Crisco evolved as a result of the need for these more firm fats. So what they did was hydrogenation. In order to make a hydrogenated oil, they first must remove, you ready for this, the omega-3s. The omega-3s shorten the shelf life of a fat. Ironically, the omega-3s are what you want in your fat, but they have to remove the omega-3s to improve the shelf life, and then they have to hydrogenate it, which basically is an aeration process, if you will, that makes the fat firm and withstand room temperatures, and it stays solid. Well, guess what? Butter does that. It's like
yeah.
You don't need Crisco. You really can go back to lard and butter. But again, they convinced us that these trans fats were better, healthier for us, even though Dr. Paul Dudley White, the man who founded the American Heart Association, wrote a position paper in 1932 decrying Crisco and hydrogenated vegetable oils and the increase in sugar as the reason for the rise in heart disease. No one paid attention to him. He's the guy who brought the EKG machine to the United States.
But you know why? I mean, look at the price difference.
Yes.
When you look at a tub of Crisco versus a liter of olive oil or some healthy oil, I mean, it's night and day. So
yes.
People buy the
pennies.
cheapest stuff.
It costs them pennies to make a can of Crisco. Pennies.
Yeah, and all the recipes that you find in the books, Crisco oil,
Sure. And they changed the way people cooked, but more importantly, they changed the trajectory of an entire population's lifespan. So look at that. Crisco was introduced in 1909. Here we are in 2013. They finally said, okay, it's time to abandon trans fats. Look at all the lives that were shortened and the lives that were lost in the interest of producing a product that the government knew was a problem.
Is it, and that just amazes me. We always come back to dietary supplements, how we have to have zero side effects, yet the food industry can introduce something like this knowing what the side effects are and what the causes are, and it's still available.
I have said it before, and I'll say it again. If you want to kill large numbers of people in the United States, you can do it, and no one will go to jail as long as the government gets their cut. And that's really the sad truth of it. Let's do this. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Science for Humans. Today, the discussion is good fat, bad fat. We'll be right back.
Freakish muscle gains, Freakmaker Build from AAEFX. It's a scientifically engineered post-workout formula that combines Frotalin, whey isolate, whey concentrate, milk isolate, casein, and egg, quality protein sources with carbolin, free alkaline, and medium-chain triglycerides. A 2-to-1 carb-to-protein ratio to optimize post-training recovery and repair. Freakmaker Build delivers 58 grams of fast-absorbing carbolin to replenish glycogen stores and 1.5 grams of pre-alkaline pH-buffered creatine monohydrate. Get Freakmaker Build today. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the AAEFX banner ad.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Satisfaction.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. We're talking with Dr. Jeff Galini today. This is Science for Humans, Good Fats, Bad Fats. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined by Dion Wessels to talk about behind every successful strongman organization, there is a strong woman. She is the head of American Strongman Corporation. We're going to be talking to her a little bit later in the show. So, Dr. Jeff, what about saturated fats? Oh,
Hey,
wow.
Carl,
I still have that problem. I just figured it out. Okay. You know what? This is all going I'm going to have to get Elliot in here after the show today and figure out what's going on with our soundboard. Anyway, what about saturated fats?
Yeah, so saturated fats is basically the fourth category, and this one is kind of a borderline because, some research say that saturated fats are bad, other research says they're good. Moderation to me on this one, but saturated fats are found in your beef, your veal, lamb, pork, all your dairy products, your milk, your cheese, your butter, skin of poultry. So we're both, beef eaters and lamb eaters. So again, I think, saturated fats, again, in moderations, I wouldn't eat, 4 pounds a day of these type of things. Again, it depends on how many calories and what else you're doing.
So really calories do matter. People like to say calories don't matter, but calories have to figure in somewhere in the mix because even if you overeat protein, you're going to get fat. If you overeat anything, if you take in more energy than you expend, it doesn't matter what macronutrients are making up that surplus. You're going to end up storing fat, right?
Absolutely. I mean, fat is just one of the three macronutrients: fat, carbs, and proteins. Eat too much, you gain weight. That's just the way it is.
It's interesting that saturated fats are becoming more in vogue now. Ever since the paleo movement, people are eating more, literally eating coconut oil. I do from time to time. I did a lot more a couple years ago. I've kind of backed down and just cook with coconut oil now. But people are actually eating tablespoons of coconut oil. And I guess it's not a bad thing as long as it fits your macros, right?
Well, that's it. You now can find in Costco's, the big jars of coconut oil. It is becoming popular. I'm seeing it in more and more of the bars and things. But again, it's moderations. I don't know if I'd be taking, just eating tablespoons of it. But I guess that's me personally. As far as to cook with it, yeah, it's a lot healthier than the other types of fats we mentioned. But I like olive oil myself for, most cooking.
What about omega-6s? So omega-6s are considered pro-inflammatory, and some of them convert to arachidonic acid. There's a lot of discussion out there about the role of arachidonic acid in building muscle. Do you have any theories on that?
This is one of my non-expert fields, Carl.
Okay, all right. I was just,
and I think just talking about omega-3s and omega-6s in more general terms, most people are deficient in omega-3s. They get in more 6s than they do 3s. And 3 is probably the one that is the most beneficial for you.
What about now? You hosted a study using a product that has some fats in it and how it affected both cancer and inflammation, right?
I did. Actually, it's been picked up by the Journal of Cellular Biology and will be, it should be live here any day, any week, as far as being published. But, yeah, that was a very interesting study using essentially buffered fats that I was developing, and we killed cancer very, very effectively in this particular in vitro study.
Now, does it matter what kind of fats you buffer, or is the buffering portion where the magic lies, you think?
I think it was the type of fats. I was using monosaturated fats.
Okay.
I didn't use saturated or trans. Those just happen to be the fats of choice that seemed most beneficial for where this particular research was going to.
Gotcha. So, in summary, here's an interesting story about fat. So, Porter Cottrell, you remember Porter, right?
Right.
Porter Cottrell told me a story many, many years ago when he was getting ready for one of the Mr. Olympia competitions, and he had, as was done back then, cut his fat down to near zero intake as he got ready for the stage. And he had to go into the gym one day and train legs. And he admitted on my show that he was using things like clenbuterol and ephedrine and all this other stuff just to power through his workouts. And he got into the gym and he started training and he became very emotional. He went out in his car and he started to cry. He just overwhelmed by this feeling of sadness, and he started to cry. And he knew he couldn't do his workout, and he went home, and he was an emotional wreck, he said. And he just had the urge to eat to get a couple tablespoons of olive oil and eat them. And as soon as he did that, within minutes, he felt his mood stabilize. And that's when it became clear to him the role of fat and mood. And we know that fat influences brain function and mood now more clearly, the linkage between that. So the idea that eliminating all fat from the diet as being a good thing is really missed its mark and really was the general message of the dietary orthodoxy for a long time.
I think it was, and even back in my bodybuilding days, we cut out the fat. We ate a lot of fish, so we did pick up some fats in the some of the fish, but essentially we cut out. But I remember when I added beef back, how much better I felt.
There's another fat in beef that I can't think of the name of it. It's an ass something. I can't think of it now, but there's another fat in beef that's also becoming very, very interesting. I've got to find the research. I shouldn't even have said anything until I can find the name. But it's beef gets a really, really bad rap for some reason, and unfortunately, so does dairy, and
right.
And a lot of times because of the fat in these things. And there's really some very, very good fats if the cows are raised on grass. And, being in Montana, you can appreciate this because we had some amazing beef while we were there. When the cows are allowed to eat the way they naturally are designed to eat, the fat content of the meat and the muscle is very different than when you feed them grain, corn, and soy.
Well, absolutely. And, the thing you notice about the beef out here is there just isn't the same amount of fat. And even some of the cuts like sirloin are really lean, but they're very tender. It's all from that massaging the cow and, feeding them the right stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we don't massage cows here.
No, they do that in Japan. That's Kobe beef.
I know.
Could you imagine? What are these cows think? What are they thinking, right? Man, this is really great. I get a massage every day. I don't have to do anything.
I get a bottle of beer. I get a massage.
Yeah, I don't have to do any work. This is fantastic. I love this life.
Makes you want to be a cow, huh?
Yeah, up until the moment that they slit your throat.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's summarize for the end of the show here. What do you want people to take away from this discussion about fat?
The main thing is, dispel the myth that fats are bad. And keep in mind, as we discussed, that, trans fatty acids are the ones you want to stay away from. But you need to include the good fats. You can get them from nuts. Now, eat the raw nuts. Those are better than the deep fried, even though they taste better. But, nuts, olive oil, fish, flax seeds, those are all fats that are essential for normal body production and growth and health, and are proven to actually lower cholesterol. So if you've got high cholesterol, try taking in some fish oil before you get on all the drugs and things.
It's a really interesting discussion because the pharmaceutical companies have come out with a by prescription omega-3 called Loveza, which is an ethyl esterified form of omega-3, and they did that so that they can patent it. But the reality is, you don't need that. You can just take a really good fish oil supplement and get the same benefits.
And I also wanted to tell our listeners, too, if they ever have any questions, they can go to the allamericanpharmaceutical.com website, and there's an Ask the Scientist button. You'll see my little mug on there. So if you ever have any questions about the show or anything, you can go there.
That's a great idea. Dr. Jeff, thanks for being on today.
Thanks, Carl. Take care.
Talk soon. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to take one quick commercial break. I think I've got this problem solved now. Let's see. We'll be right back.
muscle gains, Freakmaker Build from AAEFX. It's a scientifically engineered post-workout formula that combines Frotalin, Whey Isolate, Whey Concentrate, Milk Isolate, casein, and egg, quality protein sources with carbolin, free alkaline, and medium-chain triglycerides. A 2-to-1 carb-to-protein ratio to optimize post-training recovery and repair. Freakmaker Build delivers 58 grams of fast-absorbing carbolin to replenish glycogen stores and 1.5 grams of Cree-alkaline pH-buffered creatine monohydrate. Get Freakmaker Build today. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the AAEFX banner ad.